Opted on the Panda, very, very suddenly on the Demon Hunter, suddenly on the Bears, and that's how your units die as an Elf player. And that's why it's important to be very quick with activating staffs, with potions, and different things like this to win in the game. It is important which units you focus, but maybe if you took the time to rally through one or two units on their team, you might be able to focus through units a little bit better. Now, real quick here, we saw Destroy You first take out the Moonwell and then the tree. I agree with this move, if only because he knows that he might not get the tree down, but he can guarantee himself that the Elf player won't have the healing that he's going to want. Okay, there we go. Magic Immunity Potion, good move. The Demon Hunter's trying to move away in position here. And we're actually, I think we may see this A-bomb die here in a second, because it's out of position, but yeah, the Elf player should focus it. Okay, it goes down. But here we go. The Undead player is going to turn and throw off abilities at the Elf player. And this is what you have to watch for as an Elf and be ready to send units home over. As soon as you see one of your units taking that heavy focus fire, if you can afford to use your staff, use it and save the unit. But bear in mind, what some Undead players will do is nuke at a bear first, get you to send the bear home, and then they'll go after one of your heroes for the kill. But there we go. Panda goes down. That Panda might have been able to... No, he couldn't have been staffed. The Demon Hunter's staff... No, he could have. The Demon Hunter's staff is not on cooldown right now, so the Demon Hunter could have saved him, but the Elf player wasn't quite quick enough, and that's what you have to watch for. For the Undead player, he literally trains going through F1, F2, F3, and throwing off these nukes as quickly as he can. So you as an Elf player in this matchup need to also focus on training to counter those nukes. You've got to be quick with sending units home, running units back, and not getting out of position. Now we see here, the Undead player's running over here. He's got low hero levels, so he doesn't want to risk, not low hero levels, excuse me, low health. So he doesn't really want to risk going after this tree again. He figures the Elf could repair it, show up, and really, you know, turn the game around. So he could have killed this tree here, probably, or at least possibly, to save himself in the game. But he makes a safer decision to not push it yet. See, here we go again. The Undead player got map control on the top right part of the map, so he ran up and bought the items out of there. So he's got he's got these scrolls of lesser healing spread around his heroes to give him a little bit more of an edge now that he goes in to attack this tree.
Our sacred grove is being desecrated.
And all right, here we go. The Elf player's coming in. You're going to see the Elf player started converting to more and more Dryads. He could have had these Dryads at mid-game and maybe done better and been safer, but anyways, a great info use by the Demon Hunter to dodge a coil. Now watch this. This is a really incredible play. This Lich here just gets past the full invuln pot and activates it, right? This saves this Lich, but again, he has the item because he played to collect it. Again, though, the Undead player's got a lot of low HP units, and so he's trying to cycle around and keep units safe. But what's going to happen here is the Elf is going to overcommit to trying to get one of these kills, and look, that Demon Hunter is now out of position, and literally, he's basically in a full surround right here. So he's trying to focus down units, but look, the Naga has got an invuln pot. The Undead player has gotten these invuln pots by using his map control to buy them when he has the map control, and also by creeping the right places to make sure that the Elf player doesn't have those invuln pots. If the Elf had that full invuln pot that the Undead player had, the Elf would have won this game. Right there. But, instead, since the Elf didn't have it, Elf is down a hero. And this is where this game is really turning around, because the Elf can no longer hold this expansion up, and the Elf is going to lose the game. For Night Elf players, this is why I think it's really important to not try and Expo and Tech simultaneously. You can in certain matchups. There are times against human players where you want to do that. There are places where that's an okay decision to make, but not always. A lot of times it can get you in a lot of trouble. In my previous audio commentary, which if you didn't see it, you now can't go watch. We all love updates. But, I talked about how the Elf player first gained map control, then he crept, then he expoed. He does these things at different times so that he's not vulnerable to what happened in this game, where now the Elf has spent all of his resources trying to save an expo that he's inevitably lost. And the advantage for the Undead player is this game has been a constant fight back and forth between the two players, so the Undead player is looking at, I want to say, 5-4-4 on heroes, which is just ridiculous for an Undead player. He can nuke a unit very, very rapidly. See, there we go. Panda's down. So the Elf player has got no heroes, right? So the Elf player's losing pretty dramatically here. Here goes a bear that's going to die. And at the point that it's only Dryads for the Elf army, it's not going to stop the Undeads now. And it's 5, 5, and 4 on the heroes now, which is just exceedingly powerful. And then if we also bear in mind the items that this Undead player has, that Khadgar's Pipe of Insight for that Brilliance aura, along with statues, is a little bit ridiculous, in my personal opinion. Now what we're going to see here is the Undead player is going to figure out that the reason why the Elf isn't quitting the game is because the Elf has got another Expo up. I think that's a bad move too, but on the elf player. If we look at the middle of the map, though, the elf player is sending his units out because he wants to try and jack units in the middle of the map, or at least it's one reason that I can think of. It may have been that he was going to look for an expo attempt by the undead player, but by jacking these units, he's able to pull the undead out of his base and buy himself a little bit more time to go back and buy back his demon hunter. But
grove is being desecrated.
the big thing I want you to think about is, number one, the elf player, by creeping somewhere around those 4 middle spots, probably could have picked up a greater invuln that would have really been game-breaking for him. But the problem with that for the elf player is that in this game, he made the mistake of trying to expo and tech simultaneously. And the result was he then forfeited any map control that he could have had to this Naga Sea Witch. So he couldn't even creep the positions that he needed to. Real quick here, we're going to see the imbalance of undead nukes, and it's glorious because he like dies to both at the same time. I laugh right here. Here it comes. Demon Hunter going down. If you're not laughing, you're an elf player who takes this too seriously. But anyways, so the elf player, in trying to tech and expo simultaneously, lost any map control that he could have had in order to do nothing. I mean, he couldn't get the spots crept that he needed to. He was never able to get the resources that he needed to because he picked an expo that was right out in the open, too. The undead player saw it. The undead player could have scouted it even sooner. If the undead player had gone in to kill tier 2 buildings again, the elf player never would have even been as close as he was in this game. He would have been outright destroyed. So here we go. The elf is going to say, yo, GG or something here in a second, but what I want you to think about whenever you're going into your games as players in general, not necessarily just as elf or just as undead, but as players in general, is whenever you go off to do something, think about what you're trying to do too and what they're going to want to do to counter it. That's metagaming. It's thinking about what you need to do, what your opponent needs to do, how you're countering what they're doing, and also how they're going to counter what you're doing. As an elf player, in this game, Q Factor chose to tech faster than some elf players might normally, in order to already have upgraded bears whenever the undead player showed up to harass him. So, the result of this, though, was that the undead player countered this by running around and creeping and doing everything he could. And this decision to fast upgrade by the elf would have been okay, I think, if he hadn't wasted so many resources trying to get this expo up. Had that initial fight between that undead army and the elf army occurred not at the expo, but instead back inside the elf player's base, he would have had a much more solid advantage. And that's where you want that to happen as an elf player. If you're going to have that fight, have it happen in your base, have those bears healing you, have Moonwells healing you, have a shop, give yourself all the advantages that you can going into this fight instead of taking it away by trying to tech and expo at the same time. The next thing for you to think about is back to this metagaming thing, right? The undead player thinks, the elf probably isn't going to go mass dots, so